Well, hello. So we're on penmanship on Monday. Today, I want to introduce you to the Pilgrim's Progress book. This is a very exciting, very important book that you're gonna read all the way for the next 3 weeks. This book has some old language in it. This book was written back in 1680s, which is more than 300 years ago, but it is still very popular because it has events and situations described in the book that every Christian will someday go through. Things you will meet in your spiritual life as you follow Jesus. So when you read this will have sometimes confusing information. That's why it is very important that you read this with your parents. By the curriculum, you will have several pages to read one time, and then 3 or 4, 5, maybe sometimes pages that you're going to have to read 3 times over. Okay? As you read those 3 times over, read them out loud, read them to yourself, and read them one time to the parent, and discuss. Talk about, ask questions about what you read. It's very important that you understand what you're reading. Some of this stuff can be very, very, very confusing, intimidating even. Ask your parents. Ask me questions if you need to. Today, for example, you're going to start reading on page 1. This is the introduction. The man who wrote this book introduces himself and what he was doing, where he was as he started to come up with this book. So I want you to read that. Also notice that it has a table of contents. That's what you're doing in language. Contents page right there. Look at the chapters that you're going to be reading. Look at the journey that you're going to read about. And then you're going to read pages 1 through 7. This is the author, John Bunyan, wrote this. There's the dates of the book right there on the bottom. So pages 1 through 7 is what you're going to read one time. And I also want you to familiarize yourself with the map of Christian's journey. So John Bunyan is the author, and he wrote, his main character of the book is Christian. So as you look at the map, this is where Christian was born, and this is where he grew up, and this is the path of his journey. When he leaves the city of destruction, he goes through the slough of despond. I want you to look at the pronunciation of these words and read them correctly when you come across these as you read the slough of despond. Onto Mr. Legality's house, then the wicket gate, the interpreter's house, and the tomb. The tomb and the cross is where Jesus is. This is where the Christian finally meets Jesus. I'm going to share some spoilers for you. Then he's going to go down to the hill of this difficulty, the park, the palace beautiful, the valley of the shadow of death, and the valley of humiliation. Then you come down here to the Vanity Fair. I want you to follow me along with your finger on the map. The Doubting Castle, the Delectable Mountains, Small Lane, and finally over the river to the Celestial City. Okay, that's his journey. This whole book is simplified children's version of the original book, but it still has some hard words, hard things to understand. So that's why it's important for you to do this with your parents. So these pages 9 through 13 is reading 3 times. Okay, so your job is to read 1 through 7 to the map one time, and then 9 through 13 is what you're reading 3 times over and over and over again. And then each chapter will have a verse. I want you to always pay attention to these verses. They're very important for your life as a Christian. And then answer these questions at the end of every chapter on paper, and I will be grading these. As you read, you have the journal. I made copies of these for every one of you. These are copies of the very back of the book. If you look at the book, there are pages in the back. That's exactly where I got these copies from. And I made them for you so you can, this is where you can actually write. Since you can't write in the readers, you will be writing in here. So these have pages for you to fill out as you read. I want you, it'll have your name. I want you to write down characters that Christian meets. So he's gonna talk to. There's your very first one. You can write the evangelist when he meets the evangelist who tells him of how to be saved. So you would write the evangelist here. Okay. Places Christian goes. So all those places on the map that he visits, you can write them down as you read those chapters. These are blank for you to draw on. If there's some interesting situation that Christian that caught your mind, where Christian was, you can write those down, or you can draw a character from here. This is for you to draw on. Next page, lessons Christian learned, and then you have lessons I learned from Christian's journey. Okay, so these can go hand in hand. All right, so I want you to talk about it. You know, why, for example, when Christian went through the slough of despond, when he got out of it, he asked, why doesn't anybody ever fix this? A slough is like balota, like a swamp. And his question was, why doesn't anybody take care of this swamp? Make sure that nobody gets stuck in there. And there was a lesson for him there. So maybe you can catch that and write that in there. Why do Christians go through spawns of hopelessness? The slough of despond is when you think there's no hope. Okay? And every Christian does go through that once in a while. So you can write something here about what you would have learned from a lesson like that. And I actually made copies of several copies, places for you, so you can write that there and draw pictures of the lessons. And then new words that you learned. You've learned to use a dictionary. If you're confused about a word and you look it up and you know it, write it in here. New words that you learned. So keep this journal. This will help you grow spiritually, know Jesus better, and know what you have to watch out for in life. Okay? Alrighty. Well, let me know if you have questions. I'll be happy to answer those for you. Okay?